Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is me, Dukect here once again with a special guest and a special topic here from the from from the ashes of Reviewiverse and the place he glues all the terrible TV shows and everything from between the idiot boxes and all the stuff there. Rowdy C.
Yo and hello, all my rowdy friends.
And this is a topic. Put the stuff here. Talk about this is a big one because originally I was going to talk about the road to WrestleMania and how joyful that road has become, and how I basically bought tickets to see it and everything, and then
and how I'm basically trying to get my place cleaned up to accommodate you during that trip, since WrestleMania is, of course, in Dallas Fort Worth again this year, and I'm definitely doing whatever I can to save you a fortune on accommodations, because I remember the last time Mania was here in North Texas and hotels skyrocketed their rates and gouged people. So anything I can do to help you not have to deal with that, I'm more than willing to do.
No problem. The only looks like it's only been gouging is not my wallet, but my eyes during the 2-night extravaganza. But looks like it is going to be something different here as I put this stuff here, and hopefully, you will talk about this. This subject is Brian Flores, and just give you the. I'll send you the link of the stories and everything else. I'll put it right there on the Twitter thing here. So right there.
Most of the details already, but yeah, definitely.
And all this other stuff here. Right here. You see, Brian Flores is like this past week. Proposed a class action lawsuit against the NFL, New York Giants, Miami Dolphins, and Denver Broncos. That was basically because of a lot of things, mostly because of because he is a black coach in a league that uses a lot of black players, but not really have a lot of them in the positions of power and authority. And right here, you talk about, like, for example, the Rooney Rule that has organizations or requires NFL teams to pretty much, say you will have to interview a minority coach and such. But with this, it just says nothing. Just like it didn't really go on like that. It just say it's just a prop to get to the real coaches and such, and not really getting anything, not really being a part of it.
And he was basically, yeah, you're right. And basically, if anyone who's not aware, I guess should probably bring up the process of what led to this lawsuit. Now, even I, who's not a ginormous follower of the National Football League, heard all of the news that went on. For those not aware, Brian Flores, after this past NFL season, was fired as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And this was despite the fact that under his tenure, the Dolphins had shown significant improvement. His first year with the coach was a season that it really looked like they were tanking for draft picks, and we're going to get to that later.
Oh, yes.
But then I think they made the playoffs the following season, just barely missed out on the postseason this year, and then was let go. Now, that might have been something as it is. But then, of course, came what we heard was been revealed recently, that Flores was interviewed later for the vacant head coaching position of the New York Giants. However, about 3 days before he was scheduled to have his interview, more or less thanks to a text messaging from, of all people, Bill Belichick, who apparently didn't know how texting works and everything or something like that, he basically more or less found out that his interview was more or less a formality that the Giants had already settled on. I think Brian Carroll as the head coach. Was that his name?
I think so. They signed somebody else. And it just shows.
Just think about that. I mean, if this joke that if Brian Flores' name was James Flores, we might not be in this position, because it's all due to the fact that Bill Belichick texted the wrong Brian to supposedly congratulate him on being the guy the Giants were looking as for the next head coach. And that's more or less how Flores discovered, even before he got his interview, that the Giants were not seriously looking at him.
Oh, yeah. And then you have what the allegations of what happened with the Denver Broncos, having John Elway and him just not really taking the interview seriously, coming in late, after we were scheduled at 7:00 in the morning or whatever. He came on time, but John Elway, he alleges he was like sounding like he was drunk, smelled like cigar smoke, didn't treat it seriously. They didn't treat the place seriously, the interview seriously, and he just said, you know what, if you're not going to take this seriously, then I'm going to leave, and he left, and they hired somebody else, and you see the Broncos seasons, and ever since they lost, the winning the Super Bowl and then just completely floundering and then falling and such, looking at a team that's basically a disarray, don't know what they're doing, and that stuff comes from the top. And if that's the case with John Elway,
it goes even more beyond just the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Broncos. This actually makes you have to go back and look at what happened with Jim Caldwell and the Detroit Lions. Remember, he was let go after a lot of people thought that the Lions were finally making some levels of improvement on their club, and they
made the postseason. Yeah. Multiple times. I mean,
and the Lions just completely fell apart once again after letting Jim Caldwell go.
Yeah. And it's just that when you look at what's going on and see that the entire look at this just all this other stuff. You look at this stuff, and then seeing how the incompetence of this, and you look at other teams. You look at other situations and teams. Look at what's going on with the Jaguars, with Brian Leftwich
it's absolutely getting away there. Like I said, I make a lot of jokes about the Jacksonville Jaguars just because of the fact that we're both wrestling guys, and everyone just keeps in the wrestling community keeps nothing but praise over the Khan family and Tony in particular, supposedly just because of just how great everything's supposedly going in AEW. But then I look at what's going on with the Jaguars, and even with Fulham FC in the English Premier League, and just what absolute disasters both of those organizations are. But the Jaguars right now in particular, because supposedly it's now going down here that they were interviewing Byron Leftwich for their head coaching position. Long time, legendary, famous, beloved former player in the Jaguars organization, would have been a massive hire for them. But now it looks like not only are they they're looking. It turns out supposedly they're more interested. One of the main reasons they haven't even hired a head coach at all yet is supposedly they're targeting who I believe is the offensive or defensive coordinator of the Rams. And they can't do it yet. Kevin O'Sullivan, I think it is.
Yeah, they can't do that. But also, they can't supposedly do it until
after the football season ends and everything. And now Leftwich has more or less said he's out. He's not interested anymore. And
they're getting alienated. In fact, he can't even get a job with the Saints either, because I looked upon that. He's not getting a job with the Saints. He's not getting a job anywhere else, which is a shame, because I think when you look at what he has done, helping Tom Brady getting a championship before he retired, that should be offensive coordinator. Bruce Arians put him saying this guy deserves to be a head coach. And then you look, the reason why, like I said about, Jaguars and such, just looks like to be just an incompetent organization run by, which is messed up, because he is one of the few owners that aren't white in the NFL.
And it just makes
he's one of the few.
Yeah. It just makes you wonder.
I don't want to push him out. I don't want to push him out or anything, because that would be like, well, we're just gonna have more, and it just muddles the pool. Saying, see, well, anyone but a white person can't run an organization, and just seek only these, which is just that type of mindset, which I don't want. That what I want is like, okay, they made mistakes, but okay, let's bring in people who are going to help to win. I'm not saying they should win the Super Bowl every year or something.
It makes you wonder. There are some people who are still trying to point out just supposedly the poor records that Jim Caldwell or Brian Flores has, but it just makes me wonder, what if a Flores or a Caldwell were actually given a coaching position in an organization that has absolute actual talent in that organization. Like if Brian Flores, what if Brian Flores was given an opportunity to coach a team like the Green Bay Packers, who went so many years having a literal Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, but themselves just could not get another sniff of another Super Bowl after 2010. And a lot of people, especially who follow the Packers organization, would put that solely on the shoulders of their coach Mike McCarthy for so long, that just his managerial mistakes cost his team their so loaded with talent. And now McCarthy's here in Dallas with the Cowboys, and a lot of people are already starting to see that his coaching prowess, so to speak, is not the best as is. And you think if someone like a Flores or a Caldwell could get an opportunity with a talent-laden organization like the Cowboys or the Packers, might they have better records?
Well, yeah, that's again, just this old boys club of just people who just think they just sit there, well, who cares about winning and such, they don't have that chance.
When you look at the chance that probably a Bill O'Brien might get a better shot at another coaching job than a Jim Caldwell, that's really saying something.
Oh yeah, and it's just you look at the what's going on with all these other the leagues there. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. I can look at for example, I can look at other leagues like the NBA and such, having multiple black coaches and multiple successes. By the way, you can look at other places that have minority coaches that do have success and such.
That's all I need to know. I do not. My best of my recollection, the Dallas Cowboys have never had a black head coach in their history. The Dallas Mavericks, by my count, have had 5, including the current coach Jason Kidd, who is a mixed race, but I'll still will count him on that tally as well. But yeah, it does show the significant difference in those leagues.
Oh yeah, and you have in fact, if you look at history, the Washington Commanders are forming the Washington football team, forming the Washington Redskins. They were the last team in the NFL to integrate. They were the last team to actually integrate, have black players, and the only time they really had black coaches were interim coaches. They never really had, Ron Rivera is one of the few. I think he's the only Latino coach in the NFL. And that's pretty much it. And I don't really get into how badly the that Washington organization has treated players and such. Like, it's just the goldenness of actually you look at that. Sean Taylor using like having a memorial ceremony with Sean Taylor and his family out of nowhere. After all these allegations about all the stuff with the cheerleaders and all this executive stuff, and then it's getting bigger. Let's have this whole photo out with Sean Taylor's family right next to porta parties and everything.
Yeah,
just to really said that this was just basically like, please, we're good. You're not good. In fact, you're so not good. You almost try to kill Jalen Hurts before it's a couple weeks before the end of the season, when you have that whole thing just collapse and such on it, and everything that the railing collapsed.
Oh, that stadium is just an absolute mess.
Oh yeah, I've been there multiple times. It's crap. It was terrible when I went there. It's terrible in the past, terrible in the present. It will be terrible in the future. And I
almost wish that when you come here to Dallas, that there was any type of event played at the old Cotton Bowl in Fair Park, just to bring you in there and have you ask you, is this place as old and run down as it is, though they've made a number of renovations to it over the years, if that stadium's in better condition than what you've got there for an actual NFL club there in the D.C. area?
And honestly, the best way, I love the fact that how they fix it, they just put zip ties there. Zip ties, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
And meanwhile, you look at M&T Bank Stadium, which looks great and such in Baltimore. That looks nice. Look at the other stadiums around D.C. I went to a couple, the Verizon Center or whatever they call it, or Capital One Arena. They have nice facilities. It looks like it actually feels like, wow, it looks great. Hockey, basketball, whatever. Nationals Park, great stuff. Orioles, Orioles Park. I mean, Camden Yards. What else can be said? It's
I
great.
mean, Camden
And
Yards is older than I believe FedEx Field, and it's still
beyond
regarded
older.
as maybe the premier baseball facility in all of the majors.
Yeah, one of the best stadiums, probably I would say the best stadium in any sport. I would say that right now. Maybe I haven't gone to many, but I think it's right up there.
Yeah.
But then you look at what the FedEx Field, it just mirrors the team as it's just completely disorganized. It's terrible, and it's just and even the field that actually will injure players. It took out Joe Burrow last year. It took out RG3 in his prime, and many other players. But you know what? Let's get out of that whole
we're kind of getting off topic here because
it does connect though. It does connect with
well,
Taylor
anyway,
and else.
So here's the number thing. Look, the allegations of racism from Mr. Brian Flores would be bad enough. Unfortunately, I am loath to have to say this, but these are the type of allegations that the NFL will probably try to do their best to sweep under the rug as quickly as possible. And it sadly may entirely be possible that not many people will be talking about this in another month or so. But then there's the other allegations that more or less kind of just fit in to this whole suit that Flores is filing. And I think if people really want to start asking questions about it, and I wonder how many news organizations are going to push further into it, because they really should. This is the allegations. Like, it's always been kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge situation of the allegations of tanking in the NFL as well as in the NBA in particular. Like, everybody has known for many years that if you're not a good team, you eventually get into a position where losing games would actually benefit you in order to supposedly get a better draft pick. But I think everybody just said, always like the thought that, yeah, we know it, but everyone just takes it as a joke that teams are tanking, quote. But then there are these allegations that Brian Flores has said that the owner of the Miami Dolphins was actually offering him to pay him $100,000 for every game the Dolphins lost. And more or less, especially in that first season that Flores was coaching the Dolphins. And supposedly just the fact that it became pretty apparent later in that season that they weren't going to do that more or less, you could say that was probably when Flores got on the bad side of his bosses there, and probably was that they were looking for the first opportunity to get rid of him right then and there. That would have been bad enough. But now we get reports coming in from Hugh Jackson, the former coach of the Cleveland Browns, saying he actually was also offered $50,000 per loss. And I don't know, who knows whether or not it actually makes me wonder about something, because I actually, in preparation for this, I went back to one of the videos that our esteemed colleague Urinating Tree made on the last game that Hugh Jackson coached with the Browns. It was a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tree kind of got into Hugh Jackson for supposedly that not knowing that they had timeouts left in the first half of that game and using them to help get in better scoring position or something like that. And that makes you kind of wonder. Look, I am not a grassy knoll guy normally, as the great Randy Galloway would put it. But that just kind of makes you wonder. Like, was Hugh Jackson really intentionally not doing the best job to try for that Browns team to win, because his bosses were more or less paying him under the table to try and lose, and then they throw him under the bus by more or less firing him anyway? And then you wonder if maybe why did it take him this long, that maybe they had more or less given him an ultimatum of, look, if you want another job in this league, you'll keep quiet about this. But then when Brian Flores comes forward with this, you have to figure Hugh Jackson will say, well, screw this. The horse is out of the barn, and I'm going to come in on this as well.
Oh, yeah. By the way, it is a federal law to do against that. In fact, it is 18 USC 224. It makes it a crime to attempt to carry effect and conspire with any other person to carry into effect any scheme in commerce to influence in any way by bribery in any sporting context.
And I do want to know
knowledge-
something. I am curious, what year did that law come into effect?
Let me just
Because the
take
one
a
thing
look.
I've always
I'm looking at it right now, seeing
because
how.
I'm only saying this because the one thing I always remember is the fact that, of course, the 1919 Black Sox were never convicted of any actual broken law for their.
Actually, it started right in 1964. That
Okay,
the U.S. Code 224, bribery in sporting contests. It is, and by the way,
and that makes me wonder if that
yeah.
law came into effect as a result of a lot of the allegations that were coming out in the 50s and 60s of boxing matches being rigged and even point shaving scandals in college basketball, which might be the subject of a whole other conversation altogether. But that is very interesting to point out that, okay, so yeah, now it actually is a crime to do this, which might be going into something here.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and
by the way,
saying, like, what really kind of frustrates me is right now, if you talk about what sports fans might be the most frustrated right now, it almost certainly you're going to say it's going to be the fans of baseball, just because of the ongoing lockout and impasse between the owners and players there to get a deal done, which of course is the first time that they've had anything like this since I was a teenager back in 94 and 95. And I get that. Look, it's frustrating for me, though I might not have baseball, Major League Baseball starting up in April. But still, just this should be something more, in my view. Because if you are a paying customer, especially with how much NFL games cost now, and if there is any even now legit proof that your team is not playing to win every single game, I'm telling you, as a sports fan myself, that is what would absolutely drive me into total boycott unless something gets done right now. And it just makes me wonder, like I said, sadly, the racism allegations might be swept under the rug, and that's bad. That's horrible. I understand that.
It will be.
But this it's entirely possible if the tanking allegations, if the media starts just digging further and further investigating into that, would that finally be the one scandal that might cause people to paying customers to stand up to the National Football League and say, we are no longer going to watch your product unless you get this shit fixed. Because we now have no trust in you. That you have no integrity if there is actual proof that there are clubs out there intentionally trying to lose. And no, it doesn't matter if the system makes that the logical explanation. If that's the case, the system needs to be fixed. And that's where I come in. That's why I've said for so many times, for so many years now, this is why American sports need relegation. And
I mean, I think it should be for most sports too, because I remember and look at history. I think it was a 5 points vid looked at tanking and saw back. In fact, he looked back. In fact, he found the stuff in the NHL as well. Like, you see the Pittsburgh Penguins. They had a playoff caliber team in the 80s, but then realized, I think Mario Lemieux is coming up. So they just tossed all their assets and just blatantly tanked. Blatantly just said, screw it. And then went between him and the New Jersey Devils, and they won, and they got Mario Lemieux a couple years later, and they got Jaromir Jagr, and they got like a couple championships of it because there's a reward there. There's a reward there, and they fixed it, and such. But again, there's still that reward, and that's for fans right there will say, well, suck, but be guaranteed that top draft pick. Even if you say, okay, lottery or whatever, it's still going to be in the top 5. So people are just saying they'll take the risk just for that opportunity to be good again. And even if you do regulations, I mean, these are billionaires, though. I mean, don't be surprised. I might say grease the skids, as it will, to get at least in that top 5 or top 10.
I will say this much: if there's any league that I think would have the opportunity to set up a system that has a promotion and relegation into it, it might be the NFL First off, let me say this. The more I think about it, the biggest issue with the NFL is that when you've got both a salary cap and a draft system that rewards the teams with the worst records with the best picks, that's really a system that flat out punishes teams for success and rewarding them for failure, because you build a winning team, it eventually comes back to haunt you, because you have to cut so many players to get back under the salary cap and whatnot, and then have to go back over the process of losing for top draft picks and such. But what do you think what I was about to get in here is, right now, see, here's the situation. The NFL right now has more of a hegemony, and I'm using that term instead of monopoly because I still think it fits more. They have a bigger hegemony over professional football than WWE would ever have over professional wrestling. There's never going to be a legit competitor with the entire NFL for professional football. And I don't think they realize just how much of an opportunity they could have with something like that. Like, I've got a list here. There are a number of cities they could expand they could expand to as many as 40 clubs almost overnight, and then cut that into 2 separate tier leagues here. Like, I could give you St. Louis, San Diego, San Antonio, Memphis, Portland, Oklahoma City, Birmingham, and Albuquerque. I think that's 8 clubs already for 40 clubs total.
They have, honestly, the NFL can't really miss, because when you have, like, we were talking about Jacksonville, why in the world there's an NFL team in Jacksonville of all places, and it made it work? I mean, you people want to start looking at the NHL and Arizona and all these other places, and they can't make work, but somehow,
and that's
NFL,
Americans are so obsessed with their version of football that it would be virtually impossible to have an NFL organization fail in any city. And I think that is why they have that opportunity. Like I said, you could put even just those 8 cities, you have 40 total NFL clubs. Then you could split them off into 2 tiers. And here's the thing to go. Anywhere from 2 to 4 clubs that finish in the bottom of the NFL get sent back down into the secondary league. They get replaced with the top 2 to 4 clubs from secondary, get promoted up to NFL 1, as we'll put it. And I'm sure people are automatically going to ask me, well, then what do you do about the draft or whatnot? Simple. Whoever wins the championship in the league, in the tier 2 league, they get the number 1 pick in the NFL draft the next season. It wasn't that, like, the top 2 to 4 clubs that get promoted get the top 2 to 4 picks in the draft. Then you're actually rewarded with some level of success. Where if you're in the NFL, like, if you're losing, now not only does losing in the NFL not guarantee you an absolute top pick, you have to keep trying to win just to fight to keep your position and getting a draft pick at all in the next draft. It's a lot more simpler, I think, than a lot of people want to realize that it can be done.
Yeah, but that's going to be, but again, I think people are it's going to take a long period of time to do it. The drafting and everything else, because it's used to it. And like I said, man, it's just going to be a long time for those teams, and to get owners, all this. It would be a while, but I would love to see that. And by the way, if you want to know about the U.S. Code 224, if it does come out like this, then they shall be fined or imprisoned for more than 5 years. That the punishment if this come out to be the case. I don't know who's going to serve that crime. If it is true that if this is the case, I don't know who serves the time. Is it from
a federal legal standpoint, I don't know who it is. I think at the very least, from the league's perspective, if there's any legitimacy to this, you'll have to at least start stripping them of draft picks.
Oh, that's the minimum.
As punishment.
That's minimum at that point. Just say you will no longer have any draft picks. Your owner is basically blackballed. He is gone from the league. You will have no owner, no anything. You will find, and believe me, the NFL, there will be no rush. No, it's not going to take long to find a new owner because that's a moneymaker. Yeah, and honestly,
if they were going to strip, I don't remember if they did this or not, but they stripped a team of draft picks over Bounty Gate. And I don't remember if that happened or not, but this is ever something that needs to enact that type of punishment as well.
There's a lot of owners that need to go. I mean, if this is the case,
this is just the main thing. Like I said, how many clubs out there, like a Jacksonville, not just a Jacksonville, but a Minnesota as well, you see how many of them can't realize that at this exact moment, the best thing they could do from at just a PR standpoint is to give Brian Flores or Byron Leftwich or Eric Bieniemy, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. You give them a call and say, you are our next head coach. Like just the publicity alone would make them the automatic good guy of the NFL, but none of these.
And not only that, you might get a good team out of it too.
Exactly.
So it's a bonus.
Yeah. Even more than that, these guys might actually be able to prove themselves, and they're just so blind to this opportunity.
Yeah, and it's just that, and not only that, you have under the end of the 2019 season look into this stuff like Mr. Ross began to presser Mr. Flores from the lawsuit, says to recruit a prominent quarterback in violation of league tampering rules. And Mr. Flores repeatedly refused to comply with these improper directives. Undeterred, in the winter of 2020, Mr. Ross invited Mr. Flores onto a yacht for lunch. Shortly after he arrived, Mr. Ross told Mr. Flores that the prominent quarterback was conveniently arriving at the marina. Obviously, Mr. Ross had attempted to set up a purposely impromptu meeting between Mr. Flores and the prominent quarterback. Mr. Flores refused the meeting and left the yacht immediately. After the incident, Mr. Flores was treated with disdain and handled as someone who was non-compliant and difficult to work with. And it looks like supposedly, this might be the scuttlebutt, but it looks like some are saying it was Tom Brady, he was a free agent, but it looks like it would have been a league tampering rule. So I think Flores was smart not to get involved in that situation. And now, people say, oh, he should have. I'm like, dude, he could have gotten in trouble. He probably would have got kicked out of the league if something like this happened.
So, and even by giving you another idea, like how many people in Arizona right now would just be ecstatic if they decided to get cut loose with Cliff Kingsbury and give the job to Brian Flores? You look at how underachieving the talent that the Arizona Cardinals have and how much they've continued to underachieve. You have to wonder how many fans there in the desert would think, you know what? Maybe a Brian Flores is exactly, or a Byron Leftwich even, is exactly what we need to finally get the most out of this organization.
Oh, by the way, Kingsbury, this is his whole, if you look at his streams, video about it, he says he has done this every single time he's hired a head coach. They start off good, and then they just tumble down and fall into the pits of despair. And if it's once that's happenstance, second maybe a course, but if it just continues year after year after year after year, you're gonna be like, okay, this is a trend, and that's a worrying trend. So,
and here's all you need to know: like we still like to make fun of the Kansas City Chiefs whenever we can, but also all you need to know is that Pat Mahomes couldn't even win a conference championship under Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech, and now he's got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, and multiple teams, not only that, but multiple playoff appearances, multiple AFC championship games, multiple just going not once to Super Bowl, but twice in the same, two times in a row. In fact, if they didn't mess around and act all foolish and cute, I also think they would have probably won 4 championships in a row. I truly think the Kansas City Chiefs were that good. That's what I believe.
Well, Pat Mahomes is definitely that good because that's just a case where I have long said, look, if you're drafting a quarterback who didn't win in college, expecting him to win in the NFL, you're just insane. But Pat Mahomes has broken that trend, more or less. That's just a testament to his level of talent so much. And you have to just think, hell, maybe, and I'll say this: it might be another year or so, but if they have another struggle next year, if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I might be looking to see if maybe we can get a retirement package going for Andy Reid, and then looking into a Brian Flores or a Byron Leftwich or an Eric Bieniemy to take hold of those reins, and see if a change of coaching even there is exactly the jump start that the Chiefs need.
Oh yeah,
you only got a limit because the Chiefs only have a limited number of, like it or not, the fact that they tied up so much money into Pat Mahomes means that
much money that he bought a baseball team.
Yeah, but they're only going to have a limited window before the salary cap hell's going to come at them. So they've got to get the most out of him while he's in his prime, and they've got the talent around him to actually do something.
Well, yeah, and by the way, I know you always like him and stuff. He wasn't he was a 10th overall first round pick. He wasn't the top 1 or 2, which, you talked about this in the, Twitter stuff, saying, talked about, the second round, third round stuff, quarterback.
Oh yeah, in fact, Tom Brady and Joe Montana, they've got a dozen rings among them alone, and neither of them was a first round pick. So that's another argument against the whole tanking thing, is people don't really realize, especially in a major team game like American football, that absolute top pick is not an absolute necessity.
Oh, yes, and yet people still do so. I mean,
I'm just
same with the Washington football.
Here.
I mean,
I'm going to try Google search something here, because
I mean, if you want to get any sadder, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, the Washington Commanders, which that name team's just but what is going to be like, I remember they drafted not one, 2 draft picks by old Dan Snyder, and one of them was a quarterback who failed, actually. Just see where
here's all you know. The man who currently holds the NFL record for most overall rushing yards, 17th overall pick in the 1990 NFL draft, a guy by the name of Emmitt Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure that, and does Brady have the all-time passing records?
I think he might, but let me just, by the way, like I said, when you look at that, it was the top, just the top stuff was you see Dwayne Haskins, who pretty much did not work out at all, and was just terrible. With the with the whole thing, which then again, I always you have to look at these things in the grand expect and such. Maybe if he was drafted with a a team that had good things around them, a good nucleus. Say, hey, we got beaten down a bit, but we got a good nucleus. We got offense. We got defense. We're doing enough so they can move on and everything. But
if Brady has the all-time passing records, that would mean the all-time leaders in passing, rushing, and receiving, none of them were a top 10 pick.
Yeah,
in the NFL draft, because Jerry Rice, 16th overall pick in 1985, did not even play for a major college, went to Mississippi Valley State, went on to just absolutely obliterate every receiving record in the game's history.
Oh, and by the way, if you want to get really more, I mean, Deebo Samuel, who probably was one of the biggest stars of the postseason, was a second rounder. And in fact, let me see if I can find. Let's see.
It just goes to show that, especially that, American football is one of those sports where you don't absolutely need to have the best pure overall talent in order to win, and that's why, in theory, by actual showing in practice, that tanking is just absolutely not necessary. But if these clubs are actually still doing it, this needs to be a major sign that some significant change has to take place in the league to possibly restore anyone's trust and credibility in the league. And like I say, the fact that we're having to say this, and it might be overshadowing the allegations of racism in the league as well.
Oh yeah,
That just
like
really
I said,
shows just how much trouble this league could really be in, and yet, sadly, how much it still might get ignored just because of this country's absolute obsession with football, that they're willing to look the other way at just about anything.
Oh yeah, they will. And the sad part is about all this stuff, and I worry because this is probably going to basically say Brian Flores is pretty much done. And I hate that. I hate the fact that a guy who basically took a team that was nowhere, that was basically spinning its wheels in mediocrity, and turning them into actually something more of an actual, a functioning team. Maybe not win the division. Heck, maybe win the division. Be between Miami and Buffalo. Would have been something interesting to see. But instead, they're just
the fact that they were able to regularly beat the Patriots said that the potential was there.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what it is. And then meanwhile, they just seem like to be comfortably mediocre, or just basically be the second version of the New York Jets. And well, that's not really a good place to be. And that's what I hate about this. I hate the fact that teams, there is no real punishment for acting this way. There's no real punishment for actually saying this type of behavior. There's no punishment for it. And even if they do, my fear is that even with the whole, they caught them doing all this other stuff. Like, that doesn't matter. They might actually get past this, man.
There's one name that I couldn't help but keep thinking of as I'm listening to all of this, and that's Curt Flood, the man who more or less stood up to Major League Baseball and their system at the time, that is essentially what led to unionization and free agency and freeing up so many players in that game. And it cost Curt Flood his Major League career to do it. And you just have to think that, sadly, the best case scenario in a situation like this is that, Brian Flores might not ever get an NFL job again, but maybe it might lead to some actual changes down the line, as far as, you said, more or less the boys club mentality. I wouldn't even call it a boys club mentality. It's a country club mentality that the NFL owners have, that something might be finally done to corral that in.
Oh yeah. And that is, to me, the sad part is that there's no real pun. I mean, like I said, looking at the I'm looking at this stuff about the Washington football team of they're having allegations. They're having these allegations, and these new allegations are leveled during the hearing about this stuff in Congress, the House hearings. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, if this was a responsible team, a responsible league, a responsible stuff, they would actually do something. And in fact, you look at, for example, in the NHL, you see Chicago, the Blackhawks situation, and Kyle Beach. You would think they would be like, okay, we need to do this. Not only that, just fire everybody, not just fire, but just apologize, a public apology, a public, just a true mea culpa and everything else. But now they just try to bury it and hopefully move on. Mm-hmm. Just don't talk about it, move on. And I'm like, the culture of this, like the actual cultures of these sports leagues, of this all this stuff, until there's actual punishment for these things, until they'll say, okay, you can't do this anymore. You are going to have a punishment by these congressmen, which, they have their own demons and vices and everything else. But until there's actually a true punishment from these, and saying that, these allegations and such, there's actually real teeth and real punishment, like, not just stripping, like say, oh, the people that fight. These people need to be never touch a league, never go rid of the league ever again. They need to be gone permanently. And apologize to these victims, apologize and make sure, get them the physical and mental help that they need. And not only that, new ownership, and maybe people in the league's offices need to be replaced. They need to be, I look at Gary Bettman and all this stuff. Maybe he needs to go. The commissioner of the NHL needs to go. Maybe Goodell, the NFL, needs to go. these things, if that's what it takes to fix these issues, that's what it takes to do it, I say they should. But looking at this right now is, like I said, looking at this, there's this, looking at these, the allegations of sexual harassment, saying it's a toxic workplace, Daniel Snyder and such. Because I've seen there, like I said, there was allegations like they were drinking, having parties, all this type of stuff. And I was like, yeah. And the funny thing is, Scott McLuhan, the guy who comes in, who had, who all he did was trying to make this team, the Washington football team, the Redskins, the Redskins, the Command, whoever this team is, he tried to make it better. He tried to do it, but the backbiting, politicking BS that just continued, the old boys club, and they just said, screw it. Tried to, say, oh, we fired him. And 86 to him because he didn't fit. He has alcoholism. Come back. The whole place is basically an open bar, and show disrespect to every player, any player they have, misspelling Kirk Cousins' name. Like, well, he's like, dude, all you couldn't do is trade if you didn't like it, but they couldn't trade him to like San Francisco or anything because Kyle Shanahan's on that team because they got heat with them, and I'm like this petty bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's petty. And this
pettiness
that don't get, no one checks them on it. And they say, oh, the culture is damn good. The culture is rotten to the core. And it's not just the Washington football team, the Commanders, and everything else. It is the entire league. It is the entire league that has this disgusting core with this racism, sexism, and all the stuff that happened with John Gruden. Every single thing that they need to purge this stuff out of this thing now. And heck, the only thing is, I bet the NFL hates this bad PR because the Super Bowl is like, 2 weeks away, and This stuff is coming in. So maybe that, because they're like, we might lose a little bit of money or whatever, might lose a bit of sponsors and such. Maybe that will be the only thing that says, okay, you know what? This stuff here with Brian Flores and this stuff is bad and horrible. We're going to actually fix this stuff. It might be a little bit painful. Maybe some pain might be going through. But maybe it's necessary to fix the stuff, to say, okay, do the work, get some owners out of there, get rid of the Dan Snyders and all the Stephen Rosses and all this stuff. Get rid of them. Put people who actually know what they're doing, and they say, okay, reconnect with the fan bases and such. Put people there to say we're going to make sure the environments for men and women are safe and make sure they're not going to be harassed and such. Get rid of the idiotic frat boy culture in these NFL offices where you have like executives and such drinking to like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, being late to interview coaches and smell like cigar smoke, not taking any responsibility or whatever. I was former Hall of Fame player. No, okay, fine. You are? Great. All right, then don't drink and do your little frat boy stuff. Take that stuff off. Actually wear a suit and tie and actually go out and do your damn job. Evaluate talent. That's what you're supposed to do. If you want to play time, right, we'll have a little thing for you over there. You can play over there while the people can actually go to work. All right?
It just makes me think this. Like, I'm not going to stand here and say that the games I may still occasionally follow are perfect. Baseball, college basketball, soccer, and I'm not going to claim everybody there it is an absolute angel and a bastion of goodness or whatnot here. But just hearing all of this just makes me more and more relieved to not be a fan of the NFL and not have to deal with all of this bull crap. I mean, look, I'm going to say this. The biggest problem I have with the Texas Rangers right now is that they abandoned their old ballpark because they caved into a bunch of people, demands of a bunch of people who don't want to watch baseball in Texas heat and stuff. So they had to build a whole new stadium at the cost of $1 billion. And the fact that they have not been a successful winning organization since at least 2017. That's about the worst right now, at least. That seems like I got to deal with as a fan of that organization. To see you, who's clearly a fan of Washington football, having to deal with all of this garbage, I'm really sorry for you, man.
Well, I stopped watching and I stopped caring for a long time ago. And I just didn't care for it because they just drove me out. I like the games and I watch it. I still watch it, but Well, I look at that team, and heck, once upon a time I was a Cowboys fan because I was actually born in Texas, so I have more right to be a Cowboy fan than most Cowboy fans are. Probably don't know they're basically pretty much the the Notre Dame of the NFLs that people say they're fan, but yet they don't know where they are. And but yet, what you see what's going on with the Cowboys over the periods of years there, the company club atmosphere that just pushed the championships away and became this boys club.
And yet there's still no, and yet even with Jerry Jones, there's still not this level of allegations of such societal improper behavior that Dan Snyder has been accused of. At the very least, I'll say this: maybe it's because Jerry Jones knows how to work the media and and charm people far better than Dan Snyder knows how to do so, because that's just something he's good at. Whatnot.
But I know. But yeah, I still talk to some Cowboy fans and some people in Dallas who were former Cowboy fans who just said they could never really support Jerry Jones because, well, Tom Landry's there. Like he said, I know one Cowboy fan talked to me and said, I will not support the Cowboys until Jerry Jones is 6 feet under because the way he did Tom Landry. I'm like, dude, that is that was like over like the 80s, man, like almost 40 years ago, and you're still that burning anger of that.
I can understand that. There are some people who understand that because Landry did help set a culture of respect that the Cowboys had for many years, and Tom Landry was basically the reason Dallas Cowboys became America's team for a lot of people, and for him for someone with that much stature to be shown that much disrespect right at the beginning, I don't blame people for that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just but it's just when you look at the ownerships and you look at these teams, you see these things and all these sports. It's just until they change. I just it frustrates me but I do have hope that it does get better. I do have hope.
It's about all you have, all you can have sometimes.
Yeah, because again, with this news dropping and this big stuff, and like I said, with the whole, all this other stuff with the tanking allegations,
right,
which will actually probably cover more weight and such, which is actually a federal crime, which people don't really know. Heck, I just like the fact people are even then. People are still saying, "Hey, I get like 100." I'm like, dude, you realize you can't spend that joint when you're in prison, because once that stuff comes out, oh man, they're not going to save you. The owner's going to put you up, and they're going to say, "Oh, no, it was all his idea, and the owner has better lawyers than you." And looks like you're going to be in federal jail for 5 years.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I'm like, no, do not do things that will like federal stuff when they don't, United States, no, more often than not, they get their people in federal court. So I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. No,
right.
No, that's right there. Because again, they treat that stuff seriously. And again, it's just that if you even do these things, that's federal stuff, and they will get you. And this will have this stuff talked about this. And I bet, again, this might be a way, maybe some of what you want to do, regulation might actually happen. It might not be the 40 clubs thing, which, I mean, that might happen because you might have a team in Europe, because of course NFL Europe was a great idea, but my gosh, they're gonna try, even though they're not going to Canada, they're not going to Mexico, which they do have like a fan base there. They're going all the way to the UK because because a British team would not screw up any type of stuff. No, that wouldn't screw anything up at all. Oh yeah, that's gonna be just gosh, this league. And that this league, man, they have everything and they just keep screwing things up.
Right.
Oh, that's fun. This has been a fun podcast. This is fun. But ladies and gentlemen, hopefully the video stuff will be back up, and next week I'll be talking about the road to WrestleMania. Maybe WWE will finally get the right thing on the path and such with then the road to WrestleMania, which is going through Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia, which is going to be even more fun. Why do I like things again? Okay, well, anyway, it's been fun, man. Thanks again for being here. and all the
Absolutely.
stuff that happened. So it's been fun. All right. Thanks for you guys for listening and being here. Anyway, this is Dukect here. Peace and love. I'll see y'all when I see y'all later.
Stay rowdy, my friends.